Hello and welcome to our continuing series on the discussion of economic reform since 1991 from our textbook Indian Economic Development. We have learned last videos about the problem faced uh, by India during 1991 where we had to adopt economic reforms, and the way we adopt economic reforms, it's not because of our willingness but because of two main reasons. Remember that economic crisis was due to the decline of foreign exchange reserve, which was alarming, not able to um, cover 2 weeks of our imports. And secondly, the problem we faced at that point of time was the general uh, price increases or inflation. So because of that, we had to approach the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank for loans, and they agreed to fund programs, development programs, but with conditions. Conditions that if we don't reforms, then it's the end. That means they would not be able to get that fund. So we received $7 billion as a loan to manage this crisis, and then based on that, we had to adopt economic reform. So uh, let's first, at the moment, try to give the meaning, to find the meaning of economic reforms. If we look at these green paragraph here, the green highlighted paragraphs, you'll see here that by economic reforms from Indian perspective is first to remove restrictions in the private sector, which was there due to economic industrial policies that give more importance to public sector and private sector, where they had to apply for a licensing era. So all those were restriction. So the economic reform was to do away with that. That means we have to free the private sector from these rules and regulations and restrictions. So that's the first thing that we need to do. And let me tell you, even though we are talking about a meaning, but let you know at the moment, by saying remove restrictions of the private sector, it's like giving them freedom. That's what we call liberalization. Okay, so liberalization is a part of economic reforms, is to do away with restriction on private sector. Secondly, we also learned that more importance is given to the government's industries, government-owned industries, the PSUs, right from 1948, Industry Policy 56 up to 80s, and therefore there was also weakness in industries. And here in this economic reforms, there is this call for reduction on the role of governments in many areas, especially industries. Okay, so by doing so, by reduction the role of the government in productive activities, that's what we also say it's the concept of privatization. And privatization is the second component of economic reform. Liberalization, privatization. And thirdly, to adopt economic reform, we also need to remove trade restrictions between India and other countries. That means we have to open up, we have to lower down tariffs, we have to do away with all those tariffs and quotas and quantitative restrictions. And by doing so, we'll be able to uh, trade freely with the rest of the world. And that is the third component of economic reform, which is globalization. So removing restriction in the private sector, liberalization, reduction of government roles, privatization, and opening up the economy to other countries of the world, our market to international markets, that's globalization. So that's the meaning of economic reforms which we had to adopt in 1991, which is an important chapter in Indian economic history. Okay, but we understand that these were given as forced by Indian governments to adopt because we were in a big problem, in a crisis. It's not, you understand. So now let's look at those conditions. The second part is to look at those conditions that have been put forth by these international institutions that we need to address. So the number one is the measures called stabilization measures, and the second one is the structural reform measures. So for us to adopt economic reforms as been advised by these international financial institutions, we have to adopt a two-pronged approaches: stabilization measures and structural reform measures. The first stabilization measures are short terms, immediate. Immediately we need to address those problems. What are those problems? One is to correct the weakness in the balance of payment. That means the reduction in that foreign exchange reserve, where it's too low even to cover what we buy from outside. I hope you understand. So we first thing first, we need to mop up our resources in order to increase the foreign exchange reserve, make the balance of payment healthy in a positive balance. It's not in a negative, so that we have more fund to cover the import bills. And secondly, the stabilization measures that has been proposed is to bring about a control in the price of goods and services in the country, because those two were the main problems. So immediately those two should be the point to resolve. It's not it. Bring back a positive balance of payment, increase foreign exchange reserve so we can do a healthy foreign trade, and secondly, try to bring down, control the inflation or the increase in the general prices. That's two things that we need to do immediately. That's why they call stabilization measures, to bring about stability in the economy. And then secondly, very importantly, it's the structural reform. Structural reforms, we need to have policies that are for long-term measures. And what are these? These measures are for the long term. They aimed at improving the efficiency of the economy. We have to bring those so that we strengthen our economy, we use our resources efficiently, and increasing its international competitiveness, so that whatever we produce we can sell, we can compete with the rest of the world. And how can we do that? Is by removing the rigidities we have in our system, in our policies. Only then we'll be able to come out strong. So we'll talk about all those measures that has been taken, all those liberalization measures, privatization measures, globalization measures that has been taken. But at the moment, what do you know? You know about the meaning of economic reforms. You've learned about the conditions that have been put forward by these international banking institutions that India had to adopt. It's not to bring about a change called economic reforms. So next class we'll try to talk about those three important aspects of economic reform: liberalization, privatization, and globalization.